happening, Awesemo baseball fans? Terry McBride here. I am here with my pal Gundacker. We're here on a weird split Saturday where the FanDuel slate, well, if you're looking for that one, it started about 2 hours ago. So we're live after lock for the FanDuel slate, but we are live before lock for the 7:15 DraftKings main slate. And we'll touch on the FanDuel, I think they're calling it the late night slate. There's 6 games. We'll go through them all. Gun, how you doing, buddy? How's your Saturday going? Did you play that early FanDuel slate?
Yeah, I got a little bit of action. Hey, if you guys are late and you want to play that FanDuel main slate, hey, stack the Rangers and
good advice.
Don't say we didn't tell you.
Semien, maybe some Corey Seager in there.
Yeah, I like
maybe
Seager,
some under Sandy Alcantara. Yeah, not bad, not bad. Yeah, I went a little light on Sandy. I was thinking he was going to be a little bit more popular than that. He's a pitcher I really like, but didn't get enough of him. I have plenty of Garrett Cole. Like I was just telling you, I got a lot of Taylor Hearn. I've got some of that Texas stack, but I'm not sure how much. Not sure. And there's so much still to come that like I have no idea how I'm doing in this tournament. So it'll be interesting to watch as we go through, this show and through the rest of the evening here. We've got some crossover between the FanDuel main slate with 3 of these games that were on it. But we'll take a look through everything, mostly focusing, like I said, on the DK main slate, guys. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, get some free stuff from us. We've got free player projections for MLB. I'm pretty sure that's the only thing really going on. This is the only game in town tonight. So hopefully we got a lot of viewers out there. We'll get a lot of thumbs up. We really appreciate it. Thumbs help us. Subscribing to the channel helps you find out when we go live. Usually there's a lot more shows, a lot more content going on. I know we've got a lot coming up tomorrow. So hit the subscribe so you always know when we're going live, when our DFS offers come out, giveaways. You don't miss a beat. We will touch on Odd Shopper a little bit later on. We're brought to you by our pals over at Odd Shopper today. It's great site to find all of your best possible bets. It's our sister site. You can find it at the top of awesemo.com. You can also find it at oddshopper.com with 2 S's in the middle. The logo is right up at the top there. So jump over to Odd Shopper if you're looking to make any bets tonight. We're going to jump into the DFS slate now, though. Gun, we've got the first game up on deck. Looks like we've got the Philadelphia Phillies at the New York Mets. Phillies with Zach Eflin, the 12 strikeout ace. Last time out, Zach Eflin on the hill with Taijuan Walker answering back for the Mets. Walker kind of a middling starter here. I actually wrote up the Mets. I kind of like that spot. They weren't getting a ton of ownership earlier today. What are you seeing in terms of the pitching matchup? Start us off with Eflin, and then we'll take a look at Taijuan Walker.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with either pitcher. I mean, you talk about anomalies. 18% swinging strike rate against the Dodgers is not something I had in mind here for Eflin. Usually going to sit around 23% K rate, and it's not often that he's swing and miss at that elite level. So I'm going to call a little bit of bogusness there.
That was the second time in his career, and he's been in the league since I think 2016. That was the second time he struck out 10 or more hitters. The first time was like 5 years ago. I'd go way down the game log to find it. Yeah, I don't expect that from him.
Yeah, and even more so, he strikes out lefties less than 20% this year. And this lineup's going to be a lot of lefties to work around. So I'm kind of putting Eflin and Taijuan Walker kind of in the same boat. I will say, to Eflin's credit, his xFIP is on his side this year against the righties. But like I said, a lot more lefties in this lineup. And then the righties you do have to deal with, 2 of them are Starling Marte and Pete Alonso. So it's definitely not a lineup that I like to attack here. So I'm definitely more interested in both stacks here. And I would agree wholeheartedly with your Mets stack. I actually have a decent chunk of Guillorme on that FanDuel slate just because he was 2K leading off. Just thought that was a nice opportunity at that salary point. So yeah, I'm more so on the stacks here just because of how condensed the slate is. If a Walker and Eflin backdoor into the back end of 150 lineups, it is what it is. Can't really avoid it, but for the most part, I'm more offense here, and that goes for both sides.
Yeah. Any love for either of those guys is like just that value play on DK. They're both drawing like a little bit of attention and more than I would like for these 2 pitchers in this situation at these prices. So for me, I think, I think you were getting at it the same way. I think I'd even be looking to, be under the field's 11.9%, 5.9% on both of these guys. If I got no shares of Taijuan Walker at 7,600, I don't think I'd be upset about it. I think a couple shares of Eflin in your pocket will be fine just in case he has, he is a guy who had a bunch of 7 and 8 strikeout games over the course of his career. He's been a 23, 24% guy. So especially if you're stacking some Mets, maybe you hedge with some Eflin, but I think I'd be looking to be under the field there. Outside of Luis Guillorme, who, I agree with you. I was interested in him kind of just as a sneaky bat from the 9 spot in the project, and then he bounced up to the top, filling in for Nimmo, who that's a big loss at the top of your lineup. But Guillorme's 324, 410, 426 this season, creating runs 48% above average, sneakily over 80 plate appearances. So I'm happy to get to him. Multi-position, 3-position eligibility on that FanDuel slate was great. If you're playing that evening slate over there, it's the same situation. He's dead minimum price. He's 3-position eligible. He's also 33% owned in our projections for that slate. So take what you get with him, but I think he's an interesting way to start it off. And then, some Marte, some Lindor, some Alonso. Did you get down as far as like Eduardo Escobar or Marcana in your builds? And will you be for DK?
I mean, they're active. They're obviously not as high priority as the aforementioned top of the lineup guys. But we've seen this Phillies bullpen implode that I wouldn't want to leave out a guy that could benefit from a couple guys on. So Escobar would be probably the most interesting. I want to believe that Dom Smith has more power than he has shown lately. At that price point, especially, but Escobar definitely makes a bit of sense here. 180 plus ISO against righties in the last 2 years. So chipping a chair that if we get some base runners and some positive pitches to look at.
Yeah, I like that spot. Just kind of scuffling to start the season. 225, 315, 363 for Escobar with only 2 home runs and a 138 ISO overall. But this is a guy last year, a switch hitter, 28 home runs, 219 ISO last season. I mean, we know there's power in that bat. So I like to get to that one. Dom Smith, I wrote about him in the piece today, covering the entire stack here. And, he's kind of last chancing it here, I think, with his career. He might be a quad A type player for his career, but maybe a little bit of encouragement from the 46.7% hard hit rate. Needs to start elevating the ball, only a 3.3% barrel. And you mentioned the lack of home run upside. What about the Phillies on the other side going against Walker here? There's a lot of bats to like in that one. I think I'm getting really nice home run marks on Kyle Schwarber, pretty good one on Bryce Harper, and a pretty good one on Rhys Hoskins, with a lot of bats that I like in between. Are you getting any Philly stacks going against Walker here?
Yeah, Walker, a big contact guy, and I know Walker's ERA might be on his side, but his advanced metrics really are not. His Sierra expected ERA been well over 4 the last couple of years, and this year sitting on a 15% K rate. That's not what you want. So if you're gonna dare Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper to put the ball in play with that low K rate, I'm gonna take some chances here. I know the ground ball rate's been positive for him, but I do think there's a chance that this team, this menacing Phillies lineup, now with Schwarber at the top again, I love the top end here. So I'm definitely picking on Walker. And like you said, if you wouldn't lose sleep because you didn't have exposure to Walker, well, it probably means he doesn't have a ton of redeeming qualities worth going after. So why not pick on him? And I think this game could offer a lot of upside.
Yeah, absolutely. The Phils are pulling some ownership. They're technically at negative leverage up near the top of the board on the DK slate here. Looks like they're our 3rd ranked stack in terms of probability. The Dodgers are number 1 with a bullet, and then it's everybody else on the board. But the ownership is fine on most of these hitters. It's not overweight on it's a little bit heavy on the bats that would be obvious, right? The Schwarbers, the Harpers of the world. But everybody else, you can weave in and out of that and get to fairly low owned combinations of these hitters. And I think it plays 1 through 7 at least. You can take or leave Yohan Camargo and Odubel or Herrera at the bottom of the lineup, but there's a lot of good names 1 through 7. So I'm happy to get there. And even with a negative 1.4 leverage score, that's close enough to efficient ownership. It's a low enough raw ownership total, and it's a great spot going up against Walker here. It's going to be a ton of contact. We know there's a ton of power, so I'm definitely looking at it. I really like Kyle Schwarber in that leadoff spot too for the home run upside and the multiple plate appearances. And I tell you what, they're not that expensive. Only Harper over 5,000 on DK, only Harper over 4,000 on FanDuel, and everybody else well below those marks. So they're easy enough to put together. So I definitely like that one. Maybe a few game stacks with both of these offenses too might be in play, because I'm not touching either pitcher. I think we can jump from this one to another interesting game, the Dodgers against the Diamondbacks. Like I just mentioned, Dodgers are our top-rated stack. They're going up against Merrill Kelly, an okay real life pitcher, a 4X fit type guy, not really a big strikeout guy, 20% strikeout rate this year, 19.5% last year, gave up more hard hit last year than this year, but it's a great spot for a very, very good offense in the Dodgers. They're getting a ton of attention. They've got Tony Gonsolin going against this Arizona lineup. I think Gonsolin is somebody maybe the field is sleeping on a little bit, only 10.4% owned at 9,100 on DK. What do you think? Let's start off with Tony Gonson. You getting to any shares of him? Where are you relative to the field at 9,100?
I started my number at 20. I'm not done yet because we're waiting on more lineups than I thought we would be at this point in the day.
Yeah.
But I was starting off at 20%, which looks like it's going to come in as double the field. I don't love the 9K price point, but on slates this condensed, value is way more subjective than not. Teams that have a shot at 20 fantasy points or more, I'm going to get some access to. And unlike years past, have seen Gonson kind of tap into that sixth inning more often. The last 2 games he's gone 6 innings, and that's usually the concern with him. Now, with that said, it's not like he's throwing 100 bullets or nothing like that, but at least a good sign that, hey, maybe I can get 5-6 innings, maybe scoop that win. And the Dodgers have just been pummeling the D-backs here. So I do have quite a bit of, or 20% Gonson right now, or at least plan to. I might allow myself to get to a little bit more, but it's because of what I consider this pitching pool a little bit more shallow than I would like it. So I'm taking floor versus ceiling like I would on a ace field slate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I even got to a little Gonson on the earlier slate for FanDuel just because, like you said, a little bit more depth is encouraging, and I think he can get to this team. I'm not really that concerned about Arizona. They're frisky from time to time. The team is sitting against righties, actually very good in terms of their ISO at 198 team ISO, and they've got a good home run rate, but they strike out a lot, 24.2% strikeout rate. And I think there's still small sample happenstance in here. I don't think they're going to be one of the better lineups in baseball for power when it's all said and done. So we'll see how it comes out in the wash, but I was getting to some Tony Gonson earlier. I think he's very interesting at that ownership on DK, and is somebody that you might want to prioritize in making lineups. Looking at our board, he is the fifth ranked pitcher by probability of being a top 2 starter, but it's kind of a plateau after you deal with Joe Musgrove at the very top of the board. Everybody else ranks pretty much the same, and he comes up with positive leverage, stronger positive leverage than the Seattle pitcher for a cheaper price. I think there's a lot of mix and match on the board, and he's one of the stronger options there. So I'll definitely be including him in my slate of entries. Are you getting to any of that frisky Diamondbacks power on the other side, answering back to any Gonson shares that you got as a hedge stack, or is something you're just kind of interested in the old Scumdacker move?
Yeah, a little bit. So my main concern with Gonson is if we isolate his splits, he's had a 4+ X with the lefties the last 3 seasons. And more alarmingly, the last 2 seasons, a 12+% walk rate to lefties. And by my count, Terry, I've got 1 righty in this lineup. So he might exhaust, if he is on a limited pitch count, if he's not throwing strikes, he might get that pitch count kind of high, quick, fast, in a hurry. So I think it is worth getting to some D-backs. I was way more interested in this game last night because they popped the lid open. From what I understand, the roof's going to be shut here. So I'm not as enthusiastic, but I do think based on the stack ownership and based on the slight weakness of Gonson, it's only fair for me to hedge a 20% owned pitcher on a 6-game slate, or 20% of my lineups on a 6-game slate.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. So who are some of the specific targets in that lineup? Because I'm not getting great home run marks against Gonson. I do agree that it makes some sense drawing some shares, especially given the power they've shown. Maybe a Dalton Varsho, kind of obvious up at the top. Ketel Marte, Christian Walker, the lone righty that's going to be in the lineup there. Who else are you looking at outside of the kind of the obvious names? Are you getting to any of these other guys?
So I will say Varsho got scratched earlier.
Oh, did he? Oh,
yeah.
I missed that. Okay.
So it's actually going to be Rojas at the top. So maybe some Rojas, but my plan with that is, picking on his weakness. I'm hoping he walks a couple and then creates a more valuable single or a double. Like you, I'm not getting big power marks for any of these guys. I have nobody near the magic number. So it's more of just hedging a bad luck game for Gonson, and then maybe tapping into some middle quality arms out of the Dodgers bullpen. Definitely nothing more than a hedge stack. I'll say that. Like if I was running 50 or less or 20 or less, I probably wouldn't be there.
Yeah. Super low priority. I think it makes a lot of sense. And just looking at my home run model with the magic number being 10, our high point is Christian Walker with a 4.02. So that is not a lot of power in that lineup. What about the Dodgers on the other side? First off, any interest in Merrill Kelly? 7,800, 2.5% owned on the DK slate. At least warrants mention given the pitcher's somewhat acumen to pitch through a game cleanly from time to time. 7,800 is a fair price at that ownership. I don't expect him to do well here. I don't expect any strikeouts here, but I didn't expect Zach Eflin to strike out 12 of these Dodgers hitters his last game. So any love for Merrill Kelly at all, and then roll right into the Dodgers stack?
Nah, different slate, a different team. Yeah, but Dodgers are just, man, they're dumb. I don't want to poke the beast.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. So let's just jump into the Dodgers stack then. What do we like about them? Because there is quite a bit of ownership, kind of as always at the very top of the lineup, but then they free up pretty damn quickly, starting with Edwin Rios in the middle of the lineup. They're hitting fifth, only 4.2% owned, 3,600. He's hit 6 homers in 72 plate appearances. He's got a 279 ISO. He's creating runs 45% better than average. Monster lefty thumper that everybody's kind of leaving there. And then the back end is kind of under owned. So how do you go about stacking this Dodgers team? Because I assume you're at least interested in them.
Yeah, you have to be. I do think Merrill Kelly's probably, for intents and purposes, maybe the best pitcher the D-backs have thrown at the Dodgers the last couple of days. Not saying a whole lot with that statement. And then that bullpen is very, very average at best, but more so below average. So I think I'm just, letting the talent fall where they will. I expected really, really insane numbers ownership wise on the Dodgers, and the team stack came in a lot lower than I thought it would be after the last couple slates, at least at last refresh. I'm looking at a 13% ownership share. So that's really low. I will take that for this Dodgers team, the way they've been hitting. As far as like mixing and matching the ownership, make sure there's not too much a chalk attached. I really haven't thought that through. I feel like on a 6-game slate, I'm attacking the right spots, and as long as I'm not exceeding like 30% on a guy, I feel like the rest of the lineup is gonna end up being unique enough that I don't have to get too crazy. But there's really no days off in this lineup for Kelly, so I will make sure that everyone in this Dodgers lineup is in the player pool, and I will have access 1 through 9.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm stacking this team from 1 to 9, top to bottom, and I'm very interested in the bats at the bottom. I've said it a bunch of times on these shows, but the bottom 5 in this lineup could be the top 5 in most other lineups in baseball. We can leave Edwin Rios out because he's a young player, 72 plate appearances this year, but Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, and Gavin Lux, also young, but kind of up and coming, decent profile. Let's even just say Turner, Bellinger, and Taylor. That could be 1 through 3 in a lot of batting orders in this league. A lot of teams, that's better than, let's say, the Tigers 1 through 3, a lot of other teams that you could throw in there. So happy to get to any of those bats. Any favorites from that low owned group that you're really looking to target a little bit more than any of the others?
Probably a Turner or a Lux. Belly's always fine, but Turner and Lux for me.
Okay, I like that. Yeah, Lux is interesting. I do feel like that bat's going to come alive. His triple slash is all right, but he's not really produced in the power or the speed department, but he's got both of those tools. So I think with the triple slash being where it is, like the home runs, the stolen bases will come at some point for this kid. So I'm just going to keep going back to him. So guys, that'll take us through 2 out of the 6 games. So if you like what you're hearing, if you're interested in all the Awesemo tools and content for nearly every DFS sport out there, we can get access to that with an Awesemo Plus Platinum Pass. I think you guys have heard about this before, but that includes access to all of our premium content and tools like the player projections, ownership projections, the top stacks, the top pitchers for baseball, all the different basketball tools, all the different football tools when that's in season. Hockey, my Rangers have a big game tonight at game 6 tonight that I'm going to be watching later on. We've got hockey tools in there, tell you the best hockey stacks to go to. We are offering 50% off your first month of a platinum plan starting right now. If you jump into the platinum subscription, which you can find down in the description down there somewhere, and you use promo code MLB Live, all caps, all one word, MLB Live, that gives you 50% off your first month of platinum. If you're only interested in baseball, I almost called it the baseball, which is weird. It's like Marge Simpson. If you're only interested in baseball, you can get access to the MLB only package for as low as $18.95 weekly. None of these include Fantasy Cruncher. That's always going to be a paid add-on. It's always really, really well worth it. It's great value add that we offer at the site as an option. Jump over to the site, check out the various subscription packages, find one that works for you. Feel free to email us at support@awesemo.com. We're happy to help you find something that fits your needs and your budget. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Gun, next game up on deck. The Chicago Cubbies in Chicago, but not at home, playing against the White Sox across town. We've got Keegan Thompson going for the Cubbies. We've got Johnny Cueto, the reanimated Johnny Cueto, going for the White Sox. Do you think that any of this is real that we've seen from Johnny Cueto over the 12 innings that he's thrown so far this season? I sure don't.
I mean, I don't want to believe it. Obviously, there was a couple like guys that were pitching way above their head to start the season, and we're seeing that regress. Kind of same with Cueto. He was really pitching for a job. That's a White Sox team that's waiting for Giolito to get healthy, Lance Lynn to come back, and
it's also a White Sox team that just DFA Dallas Keuchel.
Yeah, that's what I was getting to. Is it was going to end up being Cueto versus Keuchel for that last spot, and if we don't believe in him, it sounds like at least the White Sox believe him. At least
that's
believe him
nuts.
More than Dallas Keuchel. So,
do you feel like I do that Dallas Keuchel is going to end up being on the Yankees?
He's
murdered them so many times.
He
feel
has,
like he's going to be on the Yankees. That just seems like Cash is going to go out, get a lefty ground ball, one burner for the playoffs.
This is kind of dumb, but some guys I just can't imagine without a beard. And one of the requirements is to not have a beard. So I don't know.
Wasn't Rougned Odor on that list last year?
Yeah, but
yeah,
a
lot of guys will take off the beard for the exchange for that ring, especially with the mustache trend now. I can see Dallas Keuchel, come in.
Matt Blake can turn him into the next Clay Holmes or something.
Anyway, let's continue on here. Talk to me about what you think about Johnny Cueto here, though. Particularly this spot. Do you think there's any upside for him against the Cubbies? He's certainly drawing a ton of ownership on DK, 34% at 7,200.
So as much as I am pessimistic about these results so far, I do have a lot of them just because on DraftKings, man, that SP2 spot, it's pretty puntable, especially if you're, a smaller slate like this. You're willing to accept just 10 plus fantasy points. And there's the Cubs lineup that will serve you up some strikeout potential. Wilson Contreras, Ian Happ, Patrick Wisdom, and Alfonso Rivas. I've got all at a 27+% K rate to righty since the beginning of last year. So he can fall into some of those strikeouts. And we know he's very deceptive, very tricky with his different deliveries and different timing between pitches. And that's really what's getting him there. I mean, put that in perspective, Terry, a 26% K rate with a 6% swing and strike rate. That's one of these things is not like the other. I mean, that's
well, and I mean, it's interesting. I was looking at Cueto's numbers throughout his career, and the dude hasn't been good since 2016, right? Which is kind of a long time ago at this point. And more to the point, his strikeouts were never nearly as high as I kind of remembered them. And I remembered years of pretty good strikeout numbers. And looking back, his career high was like a 25%er in 2014, that awesome year that he had where he threw like 240 something innings. He was dominant that season, but he's been a 22, some odd strikeout guy throughout his entire career. So I'm just not buying the strikeouts so far this year. I think that's coming down. I think the XFIP, the numbers are going up. The hard contact's going to go up. He is tricky enough to get through this lineup a few times over. Definitely plenty of strikeouts there. But the Cubbies a little bit sneaky, 5% better than average creating runs, kind of in the middle of the league for power against righties. Would you be at least looking to hedge with some Cubs stacks coming back the other way?
Absolutely. Without a doubt. Those strikeout guys, right? They're kind of darned if you do, darned if you don't. They don't hit for great average, but they hit for a lot of power. Contreras, Happ, and Wisdom, my favorite lane if I had to pick three names to target for the Cubs. So it's a little Scumdacker situation, but I've less faith in Cueto long term than the Cubs. This White Sox bullpen has certainly been performing way less than advertised coming into the season. So it's not like I'm worried about this game getting cut in half.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. What about Keegan Thompson on the other side? He's 23.1% strikeout rate over 35 innings, 2 starts, a bunch of innings out of the pen, 29.6% CSW so far, only a 30% hard hit, 6.7% barrels, 149 home run rate. Any love for Keegan Thompson here going up against the White Sox lineup that kind of like their bullpen is underperforming expectations this year? Is there anything there at 5,300? Is he on your value guy list?
You treat him as bad at this point. His season high in pitch count, 65. So I'm not really implying him to be able to hold on to it, be eligible for the win or anything like that. But at 5,300, it's a Coors bat. Can I get home run points, 14, 10 plus? Sure, I'll take it. Back end only, less than 10%.
I think that makes some sense. But yeah, like you said, it's you're buying. There are bats that are more expensive on this slate, I'm sure. So you're buying something that's maybe going to get you a handful of points, and then you can get a nice upgrade in a couple of bats. And you're looking at a White Sox team that, for all their talent coming into the season and all the talent that's on that roster, they're sitting well below average by WRC plus, 17% below average creating runs against righties. They've got a 115 team ISO against righties with the active roster, a 1.98% home run rate. That's 28th, 27th, and 27th in baseball. The one thing they don't do is strike out, 19.7% strikeout rate. So maybe not a ton of upside for Thompson, but maybe he does give you those, those 4 clean innings that are enough at 5,300. So it's kind of interesting. Are you grabbing any of the White Sox bats? Josh Harrison hitting second, Andrew Vaughn hitting third for this team today. Gavin Sheets, Jake Berger, Adam Engel on the back end in amongst the few stars that are left standing in this lineup. Are you going to any White Sox?
Why can't I quit you? I haven't been able to stop believing that the White Sox will get better, especially against righties. They're so good against lefties, and they haven't put it together against righties this year. So I like the thought of them, but what I don't like is the fact that they're our most negatively leveraged stack on the slate, and that's a problem for me. I'm trying to, small slate. I need leverage, and if I'm going to buy in on the Dodgers, I need to at least create some uniqueness elsewhere. So I want to get to White Sox, but I think I'm going to be creative about it. Maybe don't go onslaught 5-mans. Tim Anderson obviously can always make a lineup for me. As far as power goes, Keegan Thompson does keep the ball on the ground really well. So if he's able to go 3 or 4 innings, maybe we're banking on this White Sox team to get into this bullpen, but or get into less than average arms out of this bullpen.
Mm-hmm.
But I hate that they're negatively leveraged. Long story short.
Yeah, and they're interesting. I mean, the DK prices are low for the talent of like a Yasmani Grandal, 3,700, but he's been really scuffling so far this season. Jose Abreu, pretty low end performance out of him so far this year. He's at 4,300. If you're playing that night slate on FanDuel, those two hitters at 3,000 for Abreu, 2,400 for Yasmani Grandal, they're still owned in the teens, but that's kind of an interesting spot just given those prices for that talent. And I'll throw AJ Pollock at only 11% ownership for 2,700 into that mix. So maybe I'm looking to those guys a little bit. They're getting a little bit more weight outside of Abreu, who's only getting 8% for some reason on that DK slate at 4,300. Everybody else in the teens up to the 20s for those top 2 hitters in the lineup there that I would want. But I do agree it's worth trying to get to in unique combinations and put together, just given who these guys are going up against this pitcher. And I am with you. I still believe I really can't quit this team. I believe that Yasmani Grandal is a great hitter and he will come around. So yeah, I'm going to keep going back to the well there. Let's take a look. Somebody was asking, do you have any weather concerns? I'm like 10 miles due west of Citi Field, and I don't really have any concerns about the weather right now. It poured earlier today, but I'm not really sweating the rain out or anything. Any concerns about the weather for you?
Yeah, I'm only about 2,000 miles west. It looks fine here, so I'll take your word for it, Terry.
Yeah, it's looking nice and sunny out right now, and hopefully it doesn't change. I don't think there's much threat there. Maybe some passing showers, something like that. But
hot as shit in Texas. Hot as shit in Texas. Can confirm that, Terry. Me and Gunn are sweating. It's currently like 97. It's bad.
Yet another reason I am glad I live on the East Coast and not in Texas. Let's talk about Odds Shopper real quick off of that note. Odds Shopper, guys, I'm sure you've heard about it. It's our sister site, doing great things over there. Make your best bets in 30 seconds or less. And I'm telling you, it's pretty frequently going to be less. Couple of clicks, it's going to pop up exactly what you're looking for. Odds Shopper features hundreds of bets every single day to give you the edge you need in betting NBA and NHL player props. We're getting baseball up there. There's expected win percentages and ROIs included. Odds Shopper uses the same DFS projections we use at Awesemo to filter out the best bets available. Odds Shopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays. It features an arbitrage tool with guaranteed profit. Not bad, guys. Not bad. You can spread out shares across sports books and find those edges to make guaranteed money no matter which direction a game goes. You can find the link to Odds Shopper in the description of the video down there somewhere. Click that, head over to there, head over to Odds Shopper and start making smarter bets now, guys. Odds Shopper with 2 S's in the middle. Gun, next game up on deck. Leaving Chicago, we're going to jump over to Los Angeles. Got the Blue Jays with Yusei Kikuchi, the lefty on the mound. He's coming in at a pretty cheap price on that DK slate, drawing some attention against what is a pretty good Angels lineup. Angels have Michael Lawrence answering back. He's at 8,300, not drawing very much attention at all. Are you interested in either pitcher? And if so, which one?
Well, we just got the Angels lineup.
Oh, do we?
Rengifo, Ohtani, Trout, Duffy. So it's about as expected. I, I'm prepared to have some slight interest in Lorenzen based on his extreme splits. He's been much more effective against righties than lefties, but I'm reserving the right to, walk backwards if that Blue Jays lineup surprises us. But my projected Blue Jays lineup only has 2 lefties. And to isolate on his work against righties, he's got a 3.18 xFIP, a 24% K rate, a 59% ground ball rate, and just a 3.4% walk rate. So he's not wasting pitches. So I do think he has some merit if the lineup comes out favorable, even though it's a very talented Blue Jays lineup. I'm willing to get weird in that spot and maybe attack those splits. But Kikuchi at 6,600, if you get the SP2 goal here, it seems like you can take 10 plus and walk away. I got respect for this Angels lineup, but they are a little bit weaker than usual. So it's a little bit more like last year. If you can get around Trout and Ohtani, go for it. And once again, we saw Taylor Ward come back, but now he's out again. So I think it's crazy. There's crazier things you can do than take a shot at 6,600 Kikuchi here. But I got this weird Lorenzen feeling if we get a bunch of Blue Jays righties tonight.
I'm trying to figure out what Tyler's dying laughing at in the little window behind us. It
happened
at the same time as my dog knocked something over, and I can't imagine he was laughing at that.
No, that's what I was laughing at. You had a little whiteboard right behind your head, and all of a sudden, I saw something like fly behind you, and I was just like, "What just happened to Terry?"
Yeah, I see it now. Yeah, I was trying to put a new baseball quote a day on my little whiteboard. It lasted for less than the first show and fell down, and now I've just got tape on the wall. Gonna have to nail that thing up there. All right. Anyway, I thought the camera had fallen off the top of the monitor here. I didn't know what the hell that noise was. I'm glad it was that. That's the least troublesome thing here. Gun, with Kikuchi at negative leverage, he is our 3rd ranked, I believe, starter by probability of being a top 2 here on DK, but he's at negative leverage. He's got like a quarter of the field going there. Are you more interested in Thompson with nobody on him at that mid-range price than you are in a negatively leveraged, you say, Kikuchi? Or are you kind of buying into Kikuchi's strikeout rate here and the lack of the best version of the Angels lineup? Which side of that do you like better?
Kind of tie break Kikuchi here just because he might have 20 more pitches to play with and maybe he can erase some mistakes.
That's fair. I like that. I like that outlook, and that makes a lot of sense. Is some concern for me around his walk rate and the hard hit going up against some of these bats in that lineup, but it's a short slate as far as pitching is concerned. I mean, we've got one very, very talented pitcher up at the top, and then we've got 1, maybe 2 other guys that I have some faith in. And then I think it's a lot of meh that's all kind of the same. And these guys are both in that category. So I think it makes some sense there. What about the bats on either side? Are you getting the Angels or are you getting the Blue Jays stacks?
Yeah, I mean, when Kikuchi has a bad game, it can be a really bad game. And you mentioned that walk rate. If he's going to walk it at that ridiculous rate, it creates the opportunity for a big inning and a big sweat. And, a regular double can be, a bases clearing double that give you home run points. And then you dip into the pen here. So I think it's worth getting to both offenses. But like I said, this version of the Angels lineup is a lot less inspiring. And it's how am I reading it? How are both the pitcher and the stack negatively leveraged? That's incredible.
That's creative.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, I guess
probably some of our value, the new way we're doing it, where value creeps into the middle of the equation, is probably offsetting some of that, where it's going to get to that situation sometimes. But yeah, that's a new wrinkle and strange to see. But like, that's why it's something that's really stood out to me about the Dodgers, just going back to them real quick at the top of the stacks tool. If we were doing leverage the old way, where we were just taking from the top stack percentage minus the ownership, they'd be sitting at a 5 leverage score as the most probable team at the top of the board. Now that we're factoring the value into the equation, where the salaries matter a little bit, they're sitting at a 1.5. So their leverage the old way would be a lot stronger just on bare popularity. They're under owned. If you're not factoring in cost, if you're using guys like Kikuchi and you're not worried about the prices, that's the target for sure for bats. So back to this game and this side of Los Angeles. So which hitters in this version of the Angels lineup are we interested in outside of Trout and Ohtani if we're going?
Oh, come on. Yeah, no, it's It's definitely those two. I guess, if you're just looking for a cheapie in the leadoff spot, Rengifo, we talked about Kikuchi's walk rate. Heck, there's worse things you can do than walk at under 3K while Ohtani and Trout are behind you. So you might steal a couple of runs, but past him, maybe a Kurt Suzuki, sneaky power against lefties historically. In the last 2 years, almost a 200 ISO, doesn't strike out much against lefties. So maybe you can get around that. But it is kind of a less than stellar or a less than appealing lineup down towards the bottom here. And I will say Suzuki or Kikuchi hasn't been striking out lefties at a high clip, and has also surrendered a pretty high hard contact rate so far to lefties. Now there's waiting on more sample size. It could regress to last year, but so far not the best. So maybe we'll get like a Seager special. If you missed that early, say Seager being skipped because of the lefty pitcher, maybe a Jared Walsh or even a Marsh can surprise us.
Yeah, Walsh to me is at least interesting. I think he's cheap at 4,100 on the DK slate and well under 10% ownership. If you're going to Trout and Ohtani and you're going to build out a full stack, I wouldn't skip him for the lefty. I think people overreact to that a little bit. You've got Matt Duffy cleaning up for this team today, 246, 306, 263 with a .018 ISO. That's not my cleanup hitter of choice most games. 322 plate appearances last year, 5 home runs, a .093 ISO for Duffy. Odd choice for the cleanup role, so maybe you skip him. I would maybe go Rengifo, Ohtani, Trout, Walsh, Suzuki. That's kind of interesting to me, and you get several of those plays at low ownership. That kind of helps offset some of the high ownership on Trout and Ohtani. What about the Blue Jays on the other side? They're drawing a lot more friendly ownership numbers. They're all fairly cheap. Anytime I can get to Vladdy for under 5K on the DK slate, well under 4 on the FanDuel slate, happy to get there. Drawing way more ownership on that night slate on FanDuel than they are on DK, where they're all in the single digits. Are you getting to any of the Blue Jays going up against Lorenzen here?
Yeah, I'm just betting on talent more so than starting metrics, but the Angels bullpen has been the owner of one of the highest bullpen home run per nine. So if you can get through Lorenzen quicker, maybe you get into those 7, 8, 9 inning power opportunities. Well, if I had to isolate a few names without looking at ownership, Springer, Vladdy, and Bo Bichette, maybe some Teoscar would be the obvious suspects with Vladdy and George Springer, and surprisingly enough, Danny Jansen coming in with a 159 WRC plus against righties. So maybe he makes that list as a catcher you should rotate, even if it's not in the stack. Maybe just have him active in your catcher spot.
Yeah, I mean, some small sample for Jansen so far this year, but he hit 11 home runs in 205 plate appearances last year. This year, he's sitting at 6 in 37 plate appearances and a 48.3% hard hit with a 27.6% barrel. I expect that to normalize over more time, but hey, why not grab him while nobody else is at 3,900 on DK? What about if Kevin Biggio's in the lineup? Are you getting any shares of him down toward the bottom there, 2,500, 2,000 on that FanDuel slate? Kind of an interesting bet. I still believe there's talent there, just given the pedigree.
Yeah, I got him slotted in the nice spot right now. If there is a weakness to Lorenzen, so far it's definitely been lefties. A 277 average this year to lefties, just a 10% K rate and a 13% walk rate and a 2+ home run per nine. Though the batted ball data is more so on his side for the home run regression. But yeah, he's really, really cheap. Biggio is. So if he can get on base, wrap around, get in front of Springer, and then he'd be more likely to see the bullpen first anyway. So yeah, I'm with you. I'm not going to give up on him just yet. We're waiting for that. Maybe that Trevor Story, or even today, Marcus Semien got his first one.
There you go.
He ties Matt Carpenter now in home runs, so good for him. So maybe Kevin Biggio, he'll flip that light switch. So I'll take it.
Yeah, Carp is another one of those guys that I mean he's baseball wise died like 4 or 5 years ago, but he's always one of those guys that I just kind of always assume would be on the Yankees at some point in his career. Like Carlos Beltran was always like that for me, and we got him toward the back end of his career. Matt Carpenter, like I said, his career ended like 4 or 5 years ago, and now we've got him. Hit a home run last night. We'll see what happens, but not overly optimistic, but definitely giving Nestor some run for his money in the mustache department. So I like that. Let's move on to the next game here. My first question for you about this game is, what are the rules for injury replacements in your fantasy football league?
We don't have injury replacement rules, but like I said on Twitter, whenever there's a tie, we just fight till the death. And that solves the whole getting slapped. But you know what's funny about that whole story? Tommy Pham won that league. He won it.
There you go.
You would think you wouldn't be that salty
Wouldn't be
months
too
later.
mad about it.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. A little bit weird, but yeah, fam, not on this team anymore, but certainly pops up to my attention when I jump to the Padres. That's why I brought it up. But got the Pirates going up against the Pods here. JT Brubaker on the mound going up against Joe Musgrove, the target of the slate, the target of the day in terms of anything going on at night. 10,800 on that weird FanDuel slate, 9,900, a lot more friendly pricing on the DK slate, pushing 60% ownership. What do you think of Musgrove here? And then JT Brubaker on the other side, any interest in him?
Yeah, Musgrove is coming in as my highest owned pitcher. No surprise there. I'm just gonna I'm just gonna ride with the feel and hope that he's good. At first glance earlier, I didn't really have a lot of Brubaker interest, but now this lineup's come out without Manny Machado. It's a pretty big absence. I don't necessarily bank on a ton of strikeouts when I target the Padres here, but Brubaker's been good for 1-4 on strikeouts really the last 2 years. In this Padres lineup, you take out Machado, there's a lot of low batting averages, and Kim, Voit, Myers, Trent Grisham, Sergio Alcantara, all those guys strike out, 25 to 30% in the last year against righty. So there might be some more viability in Brubaker than maybe I initially gave him credit for. We still got to get around that 136 whip, that 4+ Sierra, but hey, I'll take a shot at 8K for looking for 2x that price point when you take out the possible National League MVP.
Yeah, and on a really short slate with only, one really super targetable pitcher who's on the other side of this game, I think it's worth doing. He's a pitcher, Brubaker, that you get, like you said, the 1-4 strikeout rate seems to be pretty real, sustained over time. And then there's warts with everything else. He puts too many guys on, he'll give up some runs, he'll give up some power from time to time. But I think on this slate, he's totally viable with only 4% of the field going there at 8,000 on DK, 7,600 on the FanDuel slate. I like his ability to pitch deep into a game if he's going right. So I think he can get you the quality start at that price on that weird FanDuel slate. So I would go there a little bit ahead of the field. What about Musgrove though? I mean, 60% ownership at 9,900 on DK. What do you do with that in terms of the DK slate?
I'm trying to find the pushback, man. Sometimes I just ride with it. This Pirates lineup aggregate strikeout against righties in the last 2 years is dang near 30%, 27+%. Musgrove this season, 3.18 Sierra, a 25% K rate, a sub-1 whip. There's not much to not like mathematically. It just feels like the right play. I definitely understand, our game of leverage and ownership, but I think this is going to be one of those times where I just take the plunge and aim for the bushes.
Yeah, I think I'm right there with you. He was just definitely the most appealing pitcher when I was writing about this slate earlier. And it's just one where everything else is so short, comes up so lacking outside of the only other pitcher that I think is really high end on this slate is Logan Gilbert. He's going up against the Astros who, Chris Flexen just shut them down last night. Anything can happen, but it's not a good spot for targeting a pitcher. So I'm just happy to ride along with the field. It's rare for me to say for a pitcher who's going to be like 60% owned, but I think he is worth it. 25.1% strikeouts. You mentioned the improvements across the board in a lot of these categories. And he's going up against a lineup that's just kind of a flat team. Pittsburgh doesn't distinguish themselves at all against righties. They're sitting so far this season, 23.6% strikeout rate is 22nd, 2.16% home run rate is 25th, the 128 ISO is 23rd, creating runs 9% worse than average. Just seems like a great spot to smash the Musgrove button here. So I'll be going there a lot. What about the bats? You mentioned, downgrade for the Padres roster, the Padres lineup, obviously sitting with Jurickson Profar going into Ha-Seong Kim, going into Eric Hosmer, Luke Voit, Jake Cronenworth. That is an ugly looking lineup. Are you going to any Padres stacks on the other side against Brubaker
here? I had penciled in 6%. A lot of that is based on Manny Machado. Yeah. I'm probably going to cut that down. And I'm probably just going to cut that down. I'll grab some of those lefties still. If there is a fault with Brubaker, it is that he can give up some power to lefties. So maybe I'll hang on to a stray Cronenworth or Hosmer and take what I can get there. But I'm definitely tapering my expectations here. I might now come up with a bunch of lineups where I just play Musgrove and Brubaker and try and steal, throw a blanket over the win and hope for a pitcher's duel.
It's kind of a good idea. I don't mind that at all, actually, with the two, the way the prices are. And again, just a lack of appeal on a lot of other options on this slate. That's not bad. What about on the Pirates side of things going up against Musgrove? Obviously, you've got the weight of all that ownership that you can throw bats at. I kind of like to do that with teams that I think are good lineups, and I think this team has at most 3 good hitters in it. Are you going to any Pirate stacks here? And if so, which players from this team are you stacking?
So this is actually something I had to meditate on earlier. I almost always will head stack when I'm like super invested on a pitcher. Sure. But man, it's some vomit clicking this team as a head stack here. So I didn't, but now that I can trim some fat on the Padres, I think I'll let the right move being, if I'm going to be 60 to 70% on a pitcher, I should probably hit that just in case stack, but that would be like a 1 or 2%er. There is no reason other than ownership and hoping for baseball to be baseball to get to the Pirates here.
Yeah, I think that's the case. If you are going to any of the Pirates, are you including Calvin Mitchell here in the 2-hole? Is it Mitchell? Yeah, Calvin Mitchell, the rookie who came up. He was tearing up AAA. They called him up, 13 plate appearances so far. Looks like he's sitting in the 2-hole in my projected. So Reynolds, Calvin, Brian Hayes, Ben Gamel, Michael Chavis. Can I interest you in that as like a 5-man if you're going there at all? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that would be the guys I end up on for sure. Mitchell, looking at his minor league numbers, 306 average, 862 OPS. So yeah, it's worth getting to him at that price, sure. But yeah, I think those are the names you read off that 1 through 5. Maybe you throw in a Van Meter if he cracks that 6 spot. I'm still waiting on that confirmed lineup, but and Sawinski's auto parts. Yeah.
Yeah. Couple sneaky barrel rates down at the bottom of the lineup with Sawinski and Michael Perez, the catcher, both over 11% barrel rates. Maybe something there, but probably not.
Yeah. So Sawinski has less homers than I thought, but I swear every time I look up, I'm getting an alert that Sawinski just homered. He's only got 5.
5 and 89 plate appearances, though. That's not too bad percentage-wise. 217 ISO. Somehow managing to create runs 22% worse than average despite that, though. So yeah, not a lot on the bone, but maybe you pick off that sneaky weird home run if Musgrove gives it up. Anything else from this one, or should we move on to the next game? We got like 10 minutes to play with here.
Yeah, we can keep it moving.
All right, so we got the last game of the night coming up. We have the Seattle Mariners the Houston Astros visiting the Seattle Mariners. Astros have Urquidy on the hill. He's drawn a lot of ownership at 6,000 on the DK slate as a value option. Not my favorite pitcher to roster, but I get it at the price. Logan Gilbert, I mentioned before, I think he's appropriately priced for the talent. 26% strikeout rate over time this year, 25% over time last year. I like the pitcher a lot. I just hate the matchup, but we did just see Chris Flexen put up a 7-inning, very nice start against this team last night. Are you going to any shares of Logan Gilbert here? Are you going to be over the field's 13%, or are you going to be under that?
I haven't clicked Opto yet. I need to do it now, but Gilbert does have the strikeout ability, man. But this is one of those lineups I've been straying away from when I can help it, especially the Altuve version. So I think just because it's a 6-game slate, I'm gonna have to include some Gilbert. I'm more so perplexed what to do with Urquidy, but Gilbert, 13% ownership, we're getting a little bit of positive leverage opportunity. Yeah, I think I get there because it's not hard to separate the C's here between these stacks. So I get to some, but it's not a confident sum.
Makes sense. Yeah, Gilbert for me, I think I'd look to be above that field mark at 13% on the DK slate. I think just on talent alone, he's worth a little bit more than that, but I'm probably not getting like hyper aggressive about it. In my projections in my model, I've got Musgrove, and then I've got a group of like Gonson and Brubaker and Gilbert that are all somewhat similar. And he's right there, but I kind of, maybe believe in those other 2 spots a little bit more than I believe in this spot, just given the quality of opponent. So let's talk about Urquidy at 25% at 6,000 on the DK slate. Obviously, that's, again, another bat that's like a premium bat price. You can do a lot with the discount relative to some other starters, but this is a pitcher with a 17.1% strikeout rate over 40 1/3 this year. He had a 21.3 last year over 107 innings, 4.38 xFIP. He's got a 4.23 this year. He gives up some power, 4% home run rate both this year and last. I don't really like it. I think I would prefer to get away from that 25% ownership. Maybe you grab some shares, but I think we talked about a few other value targets that I'd rather get to than Urquidy here. Is that how you're kind of looking at it, or you'd be more around the field?
I agree. He's coming off like a Zach Eflin game, right? Where we know he's not a 10 strikeout pitcher. And all of his advanced metrics are saying stay away. So if this is going to be one of the most trendiest guys, I think the right move for me is to sit this one out. This is a team that, they just got to Justin Verlander. I think Urquidy is susceptible himself. He's got a 12% barrel rate. That's incredible. 17% K rate. So he's not really missing bats, and that 1.4 whip I could do without. So I think I sit that one out. I think if that's the plunge I need to take to be opposite the field on a 6-game slate, just removing them from my player pool, that might be something I do here. And it'll also boost the Mariners exposure in my lineups just to double the leverage.
Yeah, that's interesting. And it's, the Winker, France, Rodriguez, JP Crawford, Eugenio Suarez, Adam Frazier, Kyle Lewis, Taylor Trammell version of that lineup. I kind of like that 1 through 8. I'm kind of going to maybe look to get there a little bit. They're all well under 5,000 on the DK slate. They're all owned in the low to mid single digits. So I think that's kind of a good spot against a pitcher that I don't really think all that much of, who does give up power, 48.9% hard hit with a 4% home run rate, 12.2% barrels for Urquidy this year. Ran out of breath. That's how excited I am about the Mariners here. Who are you targeting specifically from that Mariners lineup? Because there's a lot of bats that I like in it.
Eugenio Suarez and Jesse Winker have the highest power ratings for me, but leaning on Urquidy's splits, he's been way more susceptible to righties, letting the ball in the air, 20+% line drive rate the last few years to righties, and an aggregate of about 48% fly ball rate. So those are two really nice numbers to put together, and I guess combined about a 2 home run per night since the beginning of last year. So we can really point at some of these righties. I think Suarez seems like the guy for me. And then if I wanted to grab another righty, Julio Rodriguez, man, he's becoming what we thought he could be, what they advertised him, the J-Rod show. He's another guy. Every time I look up, I feel like he's doing something special. So maybe Julio and Eugenio, if I had to identify 2 guys straight up.
Yeah, I like it. Julio this year, 6 home runs, 13 stolen bases already, getting on base at just a 319 clip. So you figure if that improves as he, gets more comfortable in the league and gets more comfortable at the dish, that's just going to go up from there. So I really like the player. I think Kyle Lewis, definitely a little sneaky still at 3,000 on the DK slate, hit one out of the park last night, very, very low ownership. So definitely he's a premium prospect, like superstar caliber pedigree for this kid who has just dealt with a few devastating knee injuries and has been completely hampered by it. But when he's in the lineup, and especially when he's cheap and low owned, I'm happy to get there. So I'm going to be looking at some Kyle Lewis from late in the lineup, maybe some Taylor Trammell shots, even another kid who is not nowhere near that level of a prospect pedigree, but somebody who is fairly well regarded, mid-range power, a lot of speed. He's dead minimum 2,000 on the DK slate. So I can get to a lot of these Mariners bats. What about the Astros on the other side? Jose Altuve, Michael Brantley, Alex Bregman, Jordan Alvarez, Yuli Gurriel, Kyle Tucker, Jeremy Pena dominating in the shortstop position this year. A lot of interesting bats over there. I won't leave out Chas McCormick. Anybody interesting you there specifically, or are you just kind of throwing a blanket over all the stacks?
Yeah, it's a very talented team. The highest bomb numbers for me are coming really out of these righties, but Alvarez is up there as well. And of course, Kyle Tucker. Those are just going to be up there no matter what. But yeah, this is kind of like the Dodgers where there's no off limits here. If I had to start trimming some fat, maybe a Jason Castro can be expendable. But Alvarez, Tucker at top of my power models, and then Altuve, Bregman, Gurriel right behind him. And Gilbert, his power side has been 2 righties, a 43% hard contact rate combined with a almost 27% line drive rate. That dog will hunt. So yeah, I'm in on the Astros here. And it seems like Astros, whenever they're on a slate, we just always get an opportunity at positive leverage and low ownership.
Yeah.
5%. Yeah. Yes, please.
Yeah. It seems like the field just doesn't like going there. I mean, sometimes they're difficult price wise, but that's not even the case today. Altuve 52, Jordan Alvarez 53. We've got a lot of cheap pitching to work with. Everybody else in that lineup in the low to mid 4s. That seems like they're under-owned for no real reason. So I wrote about them yesterday. They kind of let me down as the late night hammer along with Verlander. None of that worked out. Apologies to everybody who played it, but I would go right back there again with this lineup. Certainly not going to Urquidy, but definitely this is a 3 sides of the equation for me. I want to get Mariners bats. I want to get Astros, and I want to get some Logan Gilbert on this slate. Let's talk about some home runs. I wanted to bring up real quick. It looked like the confirmed version of the Blue Jays lineup came out. Danny Jansen hitting 5th in the middle of that lineup. So we got Santiago Espinal, Bo Bichette, Vladdy Guerrero, Teoscar, Danny Jansen, Lourdes Gurriel, Matt Chapman, Kevin Biggio, and Bradley Zimmer. So a little bit different than what we talked about. Anything stand out to you there? For me, it would be Jansen and then Bradley Zimmer at the bottom.
Yeah, and then the fact that there's no George Springer.
That's also a key
which makes my little Lorenzen hunch a little bit stronger, right? He's been there one. So I think that's just going to make me take some plunge on some shares of Lorenzen and hope that he can live up to these short sample righty splits.
Makes a lot of sense. We've got Sean V in the chat, has been banging the drum for Ty France as his home run pick. He's basing it mostly on home road splits. He thinks that Ty France crushes fastballs. We can agree with some of that, at least. What do you think of Ty France as a home run pick? And then what is your home run pick? What is the bomb detector like today?
Let's see. The top guy would sample. It does. All right. It's Harper Trout, right? But that's not fair.
Sure.
So let's, there's Mookie. God dang it. There's all, I want like a different name that.
This happened to me yesterday on the show. It was with Petey, and it just came up. He was just like, all right, who's the home run model? And I had MJ Melendez, who was my pick in the article, which was good. And then everybody else was like the chalkiest names you could possibly think of. So
100% the same. What I'm looking at right now is just like all-star player. I guess Eugenio Suarez is
I like that.
cheap. Yeah, I'll take that.
I like that. Eugenio's sitting for this slate that I just whittled down to 12th overall in my model, not taking out guys for batting order. So I'm not sure if some of these guys are missing. Kyle Schwarber topping the board for me at a monster total. So I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah, I knew he was in there for you. Just you didn't want to read the obvious name. You mentioned, Trout, Ohtani are both up there for me. Bryce Harper sitting way up there. I wrote up the Mets like we talked about. So Pete Alonso's kind of up near the top of the board, and then a few of the other Mets are filling in around the edges. Also for Ian Happ is kind of interesting up near the top, highest rated Cubby in my model here. So maybe you get a sneaky one with Happ. He was kind of low on going in this slate. 2 minutes left. Favorite stack, favorite pitcher on this one?
It's Musgrove again, kind of talky. Favorite stack. I guess, in my mind, Astros feel like I'm cheating. Because anyway. But 5% ownership, I'll take credit for that.
You should take credit. Yeah, take credit for that. Take credit for that joke. That was dynamite. I like what you did there a lot. Let's narrow the pitcher down. What about your favorite out of the positively leveraged pitchers on the DK tool if you're looking at it?
Okay. So let's sort positively leverage. Man.
I can read off.
I guess Brubaker without Machado, but also Lorenzen, man. George Springer out of that lineup, man.
No, I think that's interesting.
This Blue Jays lineup has not been that insane against righties, and Springer was a big boost for them and a big part of them, being more competitive lately. So I'll dip into those splits for Lorenzen and hope for the best. He's easy to root for.
There you go. Yeah. Fun player in both sides there. So I like that. And, in terms of the probability of success, we're taking a 5 percentage point hit there if we're dipping down from, let's say, Logan Gilbert, who was off the top of my head, maybe my answer from that pool of positively leveraged players, but we're gaining leverage in the overall leverage score. We're also dropping from a player. We're cutting the ownership on the player basically in half. Gilbert's owned 14%, and Lorenzen, his raw ownership number is only around 7%. We're saving money. We're not sacrificing that much of our top two probability. I like that call quite a bit. I think that's really interesting for tournaments. So guys, that'll bring us up to lock. That'll bring us to the end of the show. We really appreciate everybody sticking around. I completely neglected to mention the Awesemo MVP program. So listen up. If you want to get exclusive Awesemo discounts and the first crack at beta testing our new tools and features, join the Awesemo MVP text program. Sign up by texting MVP22 to 1-660-656-4417. Thankfully, there's no country code on that, although I guess that's what the one was. You'll automatically be entered to win a year of Awesemo Plus Platinum if you do that, and you'll get subscribed to that list for all our beta testing, new tools, new features. We've got a lot of cool stuff coming out that I've seen some previews of, so might be an interesting time to subscribe to that list. 660-656-4417, text MVP22. Give a like, give a subscribe. We got a ton of content tomorrow, guys. NBA strategy show at 10 o'clock in the morning. 12:15, we've got MLB Live Before Lock with Eitan and Eric. The strategy show for basketball is with Lofty and Josh. We've got NASCAR Live Before Lock. We've got NBA Live Before Lock with Emac and Eric. It's 8 o'clock. Just a loaded slate of action tomorrow for all different sports. I'm going to be writing about the baseball slate. Gun, what are you going to be up to tomorrow? Tell them where they can find you and what's going on.
Twitter.com/Gundacker, YouTube.com/Gundacker. And we're just grinding a Sunday slate.
There we go.
All day long, all day strong.
Love it, man. Good stuff today. Guys, we appreciate everybody hanging out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe. We are out of here.